All right, just taking a quick look at this DJI. This is the Power 1000. So, obviously DJI is known for their drones, their cameras, but if you're using that, if you're using that stuff out on the go, you kind of want to have a power station, some backup battery power to charge them back up. And so, they have these proprietary ports. There's actually two of them on the 1000 model here. This is what's going to enable you to kind of, fast charge these drones and do a bunch of other stuff. Really, we'll talk about those ports more here in a second. The only thing I'll kind of give you a warning here is that everything you kind of want to do with this power station, any of these charging cables, adapters, you're going to have to buy those separate. So, and that's like a main theme with this power station. So get ready to add a bunch of other products to your cart if you really want to get the most out of this. And as far as a power station goes, this one has pretty good specs. It's not all good, but kind of the main stuff here is actually really good. You're going to be happy with this. If you're not familiar with power stations, if you're watching this video because you got the drones, whatever you got, the other DJI stuff. Yeah, on my channel, I talk about power stations exclusively. So this is kind of going to be in comparison to the top models. LFP battery cells, this is what you want, 4,000 cycles, and that's only to 80% of capacity. So basically, even after you do 4,000 cycles, the batteries are still, they're still really good. I mean, you still can keep using the power station. It's just, it's not going to have quite the capacity it had when it was brand new. So right now, brand new, it's 1,024 watt hours, and that's basically 1 kilowatt hour. That's basically what it is. So at 80%, it'll be somewhere around 800 watt hours. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're talking about here. And then so for the actual power output, the AC inverter, because you might want to use this thing for home backup, if you have a power outage, something like that, you kind of want to be able to plug, there's two ports there, just like your standard wall outlet, 2,200 watts continuous. So a standard wall outlet actually can only do 1,800 watts. So, and of course, you don't want to just keep your DJI accessories charged up. You want to charge up your phone, your tablet, your MacBook, whatever. Yeah, there's actually 4 USB ports, 2 of the standard USB-As, they're just the standard ones. And then there's 2 USB-Cs, and they mentioned it's a total of 140 watts max between the two of them. And then of course the engineering inside this thing is very important as well. Actually it looks like DJI went a little overboard here. You're dealing with lithium batteries, so yes, you want to make sure these things are safe. But this is actually quite impressive, and it's not just, the batteries. You kind of want to protect everything inside of it. So the first layer of protection is the case itself, right? So they're saying, actually this high strength structure, it can hold up to 220 pounds. That's like stacked on top of it, I guess. Maybe you could even stand on it. And then they even say that, they've designed this thing, you can store it in your trunk. So it might get hot in there. They're saying, hey, it should be able to handle it, no problem. And it's not just the temperature, if you leave it in your car, the vibration, you're driving around with this thing. Yeah, you want something that's going to be able to handle that kind of abuse. And another good feature on this thing is the ability to charge it directly from the wall. There's no power brick, there's no accessory brick, charging brick. They just give you the cord. In fact, as I mentioned, that's like the only thing they give you with this thing. But yeah, it's just a standard wall cord. You plug it right into it, and it's going to charge it up fast too. And there's actually 2 speeds, and I love this because there's a switch, as you can see, right on the front of the unit, because you don't always want to charge these batteries as fast as possible. If it's a situation where you can't wait, then yes, it's nice to be able to fast charge it. Otherwise, if you're just charging it up for the sake of charging it up, use the slower speed. And I love the fact that this has a switch right on the power station, Because a lot of power stations, they have an app and you got to go into these settings and stuff like that. So that's all good stuff. Now, what's not good about this product? Well, it's the solar charging or the lack of solar charging. So this is a really bizarre setup. I mean, really, that's the best word for it. If you take a look here, you can see there's like this little box attached to the side of the power station. So if you want to do solar charging, you do have to buy this box and you have to install it. And, you know, if you want to get the most out of this thing, they're saying 800 watts. If you want to do that, guess what? You got to buy you got to buy 2 of them. And as you can see here, it actually blocks the airflow, the vent, the airflow cooling vent on it as well. So this is not this is not a good design. And you know, if you're wondering here too, like, you know, what are these little numbers? Yeah, what are the little numbers next to the specs? You know, evidently it's something to do with the fact that you don't get these you don't get these boxes included with it. So in fact, if you read the description here in the listing, it just says supports solar charging. And by the way, before we actually talk about those little solar charging add-on boxes, you might have noticed that even the car charging has a little asterisk note number by it. Yeah, that's because if you want to be able to charge it up from the car, you gotta buy an adapter. All right, so here it is. The good news is it is MPPT, and you can actually put 3 connections into each box. So then, as I talked about, you can actually have 2 of these boxes attached to the power station itself for a total of 6 inputs, okay? And they're all XT60, so you're probably familiar with that. Yeah, so for each input port, you can only do up to 30 volts, okay? So that's actually fine because most standard solar panels are going to be somewhere around 18 volts, 20 volts. So that's fine. If you just have that, that's fine. And then, you know, as far as the number of amps, it depends on how many you input at the same time. So if you just use one of these, you know, it's 30 volts and then it's only 10 amps, okay? And as you can imagine, you're only going to get about 200 watts. In fact, they say that it's capped out at 200 watts if you only use one input port. Now, if you use all 3, of them, they actually up the amps to 16 amps. And you can do that full 400 watts. So again, you can do a total of 800 watts if you have 2 of these, and you basically got 6 solar panels going into it. You might be wondering, you know, this is the connector, obviously, that connects to the power station. So guess what? It's actually, they're using these proprietary output ports. Yes, these are actually bi-directional. So that's how you actually input solar power as well. Now, of course, you can see the other downside here is that if let's say you've got 2 of these boxes connected to this thing, you're going to be using both of these, aren't you? So then you're not going to be able to charge up your drone or do anything else, right? Because you're using those output ports as well. I mean, I guess you could still use, this stuff, but you're not going to be able to quickly charge up your drone, which is kind of the whole point.